right now, given COVID, given the remote kind of entitlement process, I hear it from Alex that they're trying to go business as usual, but of course it's not. It's everyone's kind of adapting to what's going on. So can you kind of go into that detail about that project that you're working on now, as far as extended timelines, or what, the processing of documents, or any of that kind of contract language or
Yeah.
implementation, anything more in detail that you want to share, given the pandemic and now having to still entitle that project? Was there, that obviously was huge, but was there any other nuance there that, or you'd have to look out for, or things that kind of, that you experienced, or
Well,
experiencing?
yeah, I have many examples actually. But first and foremost is
Yeah,
was like, look, it wasn't a circumstance that was malicious or anything bad intent.
right.
I'm very big into teamwork.
Hmm.
Offline, you and I have talked about that
Yeah,
numerous times, John.
yeah,
Um, and especially in today's market,
right.
your team, you've got to be working as a team, because there are so many hurdles coming at you,
Mhm.
so many fireballs you got to, and bullets you got to avoid and dodge. If you're not working as a team, then you're when you really need your brain power,
Yeah.
you can't gather it. And and I think that's first and foremost in my mind all the time. The issue we had with the planning department
Hmm.
took months and months, probably longer than it needed to,
Yeah.
just because we couldn't just go down and have a meeting and
Wow.
knock something out.
Yeah.
We had to do things remotely. We're filing documents. Their workload slowed tremendously in terms of what they could do,
Yeah.
so that cases were just piling up.
Hmm.
Um, just working through permits, getting and as much as everyone at LADBS is really trying to push things through, the planning department, you have to get on a calendar. You got to schedule time. If you have a Zoom call to
Yeah.
work through things, or a go-to meeting, so that an architect can explain what's on a drawing, and no, you need to look over here. It's got more detail. I have spent, no lie, 22 months working with urban forestry to get 8 trees taken down around the site to prepare for construction.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
finally on the board hearing
Mm.
for next Friday. It's been 22 months since I submitted my first bit of
Oh my
information.
God.
And
Oh my
that's just
God.
because, again, they're not trying to avoid anything. They
Yeah.
want to do it.
Yeah.
They got to certainly do their evaluation, but just posting everything on the site, getting everybody to acknowledge it, getting things done. People were being furloughed. They can only work 4 days a week, or they're only in the office for 2 days a week.
Exactly.
Um, just
Budgeting issues. How
yeah,
many of them are there?
yeah,
Skeleton crew.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just processing a check right now through the city. If you want to actually take a check down or get a bond approved, it takes like 3 to 4 weeks.
Oh my.
Where we normally,
Oh
my
my God.
permit expediter would walk in and walk out in 10 minutes with a permit, and now it takes almost 4 weeks. And and it's not just those agencies. Bureau of Engineering, Department of Transportation, um, LA DWP. I've been working already for 2 years. We're finally going to get our temporary power right in line for when we're
Wow.
going to start construction. Permanent power, they've lost, the LADWP has lost 6 engineers.
Mm.
2 of them were their top engineers. That one, I think one retired and one just got a different opportunity.
Oh no.
So they just, in this environment, they just unfortunately lost some people. So I think their engineers have an average of like 50 projects on each of their desks, which is just overwhelming.
Mm.
Even though they're all in different phases, and they're,
Right.
some are, they might only be really working on 2 or 3 at a time.
Mhm.
They're still, with their name on it. And that's just been a hurdle. So, organizing conference calls, organizing Zoom calls, actually having a face-to-face with a masked meeting, whatever. So that's taking a lot of time. I think COVID is also an issue for me right now. Contractually,
Mm.
I've got a GMP document for a project that's going to cost tens of millions of dollars, as you can imagine. It's a
Yeah.
big number
Yeah.
to build. It's the project I'm working on downtown. It's 3/4 of a city block. It's 235 units. It's a big 7-story building. It's
Yeah.
going to be gorgeous. It's
Yeah.
designed by Humphreys Architects down in Irvine. We have incredible engineers working on the project. It's probably 16 specialty consultants. Everyone's been working their butts off. Um,
What,
and
I'm
it,
curious. So in that, it was, obviously COVID hit during, it was already kind of intended, designed a certain way. There
Sure.
might have been, did you utilize that time period, that 6-month delay? But I don't think you can, right, with the city to add any sort of like design,
Once you get your entitlements,
corrections. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
your
You're
cake
on a
is
set
baked.
path. Okay.
Yeah, your cake is baked, especially with the city.
Yeah.
Your cake is baked on the outside. The dress you wear to your wedding is done. That is your dress. When you get
Yeah.
that letter of determination and you
Yeah.
pass
That's
the
it.
appeal
Mhm.
period, if you've got a facade of gold, you're
Mhm.
putting on a facade of gold. Now, what you do on the inside, and if you want to massage some units, we
Sure.
actually,
Sure.
working with the city, where it was able to realize that we could eliminate. We had too many staircases, and we were able to eliminate an egress stair, and we were able to gain some space in some studio units,
Mhm.
which make it so we were able to do that. But the physical, the fenestration where the windows were, the doors,
Right.
that all
Right.
remained identical. So the
I
architect
see.
had the challenge of actually working basically from the outside in.
Mhm.
Um, so that's kind of that circumstance. My point about COVID is we're trying to incorporate COVID language in our GMP document right now,
Oh,
and
really?
it's a function of how far do you go,
Yeah.
because while everyone is talking about COVID, and this might have come up in your other podcasts and
Yeah.
things people are talking about in the industry, just of what's changed.
Yes.
I think you've mentioned before you like being a disruptor in what you do with your business line,
Yeah.
and what this COVID has done to some of the industries, and what it's going to be like when we return to work. How do we return to work? How do we work? Everybody's like, oh, I don't mind working from home, but
Mm.
after 7 months, people don't like living at work.
Yeah. Right.
And I think that in a lot of the chats I have with general contractors when we're pricing jobs, designers, my clients, look, we could be 6 to 9 months away from a vaccine or
Yeah.
whatever's going to
Right.
help solve this problem.
Right.
And I do think, look, my wife and I want to go to a movie so bad, I can't tell you. To hear that Broadway may not open until next summer,
Oh,
and
man.
whether Broadway and live theater survives,
Yeah.
not to mention other industries and restaurants and retail, et cetera,
Yeah.
we've learned to live with new things. I think that we talk about with designers, I talk
Mhm.
about COVID related to our one bedroom dens going to make a huge comeback,
Oh, yes.
because people want a room they can shut the door and
Right.
they're no longer at the office.
Right.
Will people, how is office going to change? Will people work from home 2 days a week and go in 3 days a week and be on
Yeah.
a flip flop schedule? Like maybe you and I share a desk, and you go Tuesday, Thursday this week, I go Tuesday, Thursday next week,
Right.
and that, whatever that might be, because now, especially in Los Angeles, if I can save an hour on the highway,
Oh, easy. Yeah.
how much,
Absolutely.
how much of a better mood am I going to be in if I only go to the office Tuesday through Thursday, but I'm home one day on Friday,
Right.
which means I might be available for my kids at 5 o'clock, not 7:30,
Right.
et cetera. So however that evolves. So we're looking at designing, we're looking at addressing it in our GMP contracts. And
Mhm.
I've spoken to a number of GCs. I've spoken to a number of owners,
Mhm.
actually from California to Maryland,
Mhm.
of how they're trying to incorporate it. And are we going to get to a point where you can't, a lot of people look at COVID as the best analogous that we have is
Mhm.
bungee jumping. You have to sign a waiver.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a big fat rubber band and we've done 1,000 successful jumps, but if that thing snaps right now and you end up on that rock down there, I don't know what I can tell you except you take your life in your own hands.
Right.
Well, there have been ideas where do we have subcontractor tradesmen actually um, sign a waiver
Mhm.
saying, I realize that there's COVID and I realize I could catch it here. I
Right.
realize I could get sick. I realize I could be hospitalized. I realize I could die.
Right.
But when you try to put that from the general contractor who runs the site can say, hey, we take responsibility for the site. We will implement our own safety procedures, which are obviously elevated. We're
Right.
going to follow the state guidelines. We're going to follow national CDC guidelines,
Mhm.
et cetera. We'll do everything we can. Then, what you can't do is have, a tradesman for an electrician or a plumber come in and, say, hey, I caught COVID on your site. I'm suing you, the owner, the GC, everyone.
Bad. Yeah.
That's where we're trying to find the common ground of what's
Mm,
reasonably expected.
right.
And I think everyone's working. I think the market is generally working through that,
Hmm.
and we're addressing it because we can't mandate so many things that we're narrowing the number of subs that can bid on a job,
Yeah.
because it's just going to elevate costs, because they're already. The other thing we're really jumping through, that some of your um, audience may already be dealing with as well, the price of lumber has just shot through the roof over the past 7 months. In February, it was a third of what it is right now.
Wow.
And luckily for our project, where we know we're going to start, we got a demo, we got to get a hole in the ground, we got to come back with concrete. We're probably not going to be into framing until, March, April, May of next year. So we've got time to watch the market, when it seems, from what I've obtained data points from those that I know in the industry, everything's escalated right now because, COVID. They can't have as many, you know, people cutting down trees. They
Yeah.
can't mill as much. The mill's basically almost shut down at a certain point.
Hmm.
And we think that prices are going to subside and get back to normal, in the spring and summer. So we'll just wait and buy. We'll take a little bit of a risk, that we can buy at a better rate than today.